morning, social media friends. And let's assume some of you who are friends from afar. It doesn't matter how you are connected to me. My co-host Greg, who you will see shortly, he's prepping himself, makeup and all of that kind of stuff. No, I'm just teasing Greg here. As well, everyone, we've got a special guest that we want to share with all of you tonight. By the way, as you're watching us, let's make sure you're at the right place, okay? You are in our episode tonight of Real Living in Bolingbrook. And for those of you who are scratching your head wondering, where the heck is Bolingbrook? Well, it's one of the suburbs of the Chicago metropolitan area. For those of you who live in Bolingbrook, welcome. Thank you for sharing your time, joining us. For those of you who want to live in Bolingbrook, well, you're at the right place, because my co-host Greg will, of course, drop a lot of nuggets that might just be value for you if you're considering moving to Bolingbrook. And for those of you who live in other metropolitans, well, thank you for joining us as well, because using the 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon, my opinion is you may know someone who lives in Bolingbrook. And by the way, if you do, and if you're watching this as a live stream, we encourage you to participate with us. Audience participation is fun. It's key. So if you feel like you want to drop a comment and say, Bill, Greg, and Patricia, that's our special guest tonight, I know someone who lives in Bolingbrook, drop a comment into this live stream that is showing on LinkedIn, on Facebook, and of course, my YouTube channel. We love to get connected with the people that you know as well. So all of that being said, let me now get Greg into the room after he got kind of, prepped up by makeup artists. So here we go, Greg.
Yeah, thanks for that, Bill.
Hey, everyone, there you are.
Yes.
Yeah. So, Greg, how are you tonight?
I'm doing awesome. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Let's start off with this. We're now in spring, right? Mm-hmm. However, it doesn't feel that way outside, right?
It feels, well, last week it felt like summer. Now it feels like winter again.
I know. We had put away enough of our winter clothing last week because it was so nice. We thought like, hey, Mother Nature is doing right by us. Yeah. And all of a sudden the hammer dropped and we had to dig some of that stuff back out.
My magnolias are starting to bloom.
Are they?
Yeah.
So what are you going to do?
Yeah.
What are you going to do? Yeah. So let's kick off tonight's episode of Real Living in Bolingbrook, Greg, with the most obvious reason why, our guest, social media friends, local friends, by the way, brothers, sisters who are showing their support for you and me, showing up. Let's start off with the things that matter, which is what the heck is going on with the market of the business of real estate in or near Bolingbrook.
Oh my gosh. So much is going on in real estate. It is absolutely unbelievable. In fact, I think most people, and I'm not really going to touch on this unless you want to talk about it, but NAR just came out with a huge lawsuit, which is kind of changing the fabric of how real estate is going to be done moving forward, starting in July. It's all got to be approved by a federal judge, but if it does go that route, things are going to be different in terms of disclosure. However, I don't think that things are really going to be any different as far as how things are normally done in real estate. So I know people are probably hearing a whole bunch of stuff about that. So I just kind of want to touch up base on it. There's a lot of fear mongering going on out there, but at the end of the day, it's not going to really change a whole lot of anything. Yeah. So in terms of real estate, I think the last week, last month when we talked, I kind of showed you the big picture on what was going on in real estate, stemming all the way back from before 2008. Right. So this time, I think I just wanted to touch base on the last 12 months, and I think that you'll find this interesting. So In 2020, when COVID came out, the real estate changed quite a bit. Interest rates were still low, but then they jumped up shortly after COVID, that next year.
Mm-hmm.
Inventory has been very low. Well, in the year of 2023, last year, everyone knows, how real estate was, how there wasn't enough inventory, how prices were going through the roof. So I printed out just a graph that I wanted to show, and hopefully you can see this.
We can.
You can? Okay.
Yeah, we can.
So February of, I'm not used to this camera. So February of 2023, we had 1150 new homes come on the market.
Right.
And February of this year,
oh my gosh,
we're down to 900. So a 22% drop from last year. So the inventory levels are even more scarce than they were a year ago. So we're anything from a normal market. And with that, this is price per square foot.
Okay.
You had where am I? Right here. 176 to 186 square feet. 172 to 186 square feet. So $186 per square foot, which is about a 7.5% increase from last year this time.
Right.
And that's the direction that it's going. Things can change, but I have no idea. I don't think really anybody does. Everybody has perspectives on what they think is going to happen, but it's like guessing the stock market. Nobody knows. Nobody knows.
Yeah. It's kind of like this guy wondering what's going to happen.
Nobody knows. What do they say in the finance? When somebody says they know what's going to happen in the stock market, that they're lying. Nobody knows.
I know. And I think the reality is, with what you described, Greg, while COVID certainly disrupted all of our lives, let's get real. The one thing that continued to happen is people were still forming households, having babies, and et cetera, et cetera.
Right. Yeah. And the population keeps going.
Keeps going up.
Keeps going up. We don't have enough homes.
That is very true. That is very true. Yeah. So if I am a potential home seller, what is the advice you would drop and share with me?
So there's some general advice, but I'm going to amuse you a little bit and say that what I would recommend, seriously, the first thing is to call me so I can tell you what to do. The reason why I say that is every single house is so different as to what I'd advise. I can easily say, organize, paint, put new carpet down. The homeowner might know some things that they need to do, but really they don't know exactly what to do. Some homes that I go into, I went into a $1.2 million home, and the home was beautiful. And I looked at the guy's lights. I said, get rid of these things. I got a guy. He's going to hook up some new lights, get him in here. The lighting was incorrect, and that needed to be corrected. Not a big deal, but then I have some people where their house is in ruins, and they ask me, what should I do?
Yeah.
It's like, don't do anything. Seriously.
Yeah.
It's a small $250,000 home. First-time home buyer is going to buy it. You don't have the money to put into painting and doing all these things. Just pack your stuff, start putting it in boxes, but leave the scuffed paint walls. Don't worry about it. Whoever's going to buy it's going to buy it as is. They can paint it. We'll just sell it not here, but we'll sell it here because that's the condition of the home. A lot of people don't have a whole bunch of money to throw into the home.
Yeah.
Generally speaking, though, it's going to be looking at just going through the home. So I went to this one home. It was an $800,000 sale in a subdivision right over here, Breckenridge. Beautiful home. Beautiful home.
Mm-hmm.
And I went inside and I walked in his family room. I pointed to the ceiling and I said, what's that?
What was that?
He says, oh, I've never seen that before. It was a major water stain
Oh no.
that immediately slapped me in the face that he's been living there for years and claims he doesn't have any knowledge of it.
I know.
So,
I know.
you know, you get used to just living the way their house is. So it's good when I come in that I can kind of go through things. And there's things that definitely just slap me in the face. You know, if it's paint that's touching the ceiling, you know, that's not done professional, I see that immediately.
Yeah.
So there's a whole bunch of things that I see that I would see as a buyer's agent. And when I'm with my buyers, I'd be pointing those things out.
Yeah, that's great advice. And I think, like you said, Greg, you know, we all live contently in our home, and whether we've lived in our home for 3 years, 7 years, or more than 10 years, you know, sometimes you get to the point where, hey, it's okay by me, right? But when you are trying to put your home out on the marketplace, just like you're trying to put your home on a dating app, you got to show that thing in its best light.
Right.
Right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, you got to show that thing in its best light. So spot on there. And I love the first part of what you said, which is, yeah, I'm going to be a little fun here. You got to start with calling me. I think that's so true. I mean,
yeah, it is.
Right? I mean, get a professional's opinion.
And it's free.
Yeah, and it's free. The conversation and the coffee is free.
Yeah. So I usually spend an hour and a half just first going there to meet people, walk through their homes. As I walk through the homes, I give them advice as the things that I would do.
Yeah, yeah. And I agree with you. I mean, right now I've got some clients who are, right, they're baby boomers. You know what that means. And they are moving. They're moving out of Illinois. Not for the reason that you think, which is they're moving out of Illinois because, you know, they want to live in a warmer climate. That is a motivator. But they're moving out of Illinois because they want to be closer to their friends who have moved out of Illinois.
Yeah, right.
And they have this big 2-story home with a lot of stairs, and it's just the two of them, no kids. And for that reason, I had a conversation with them. I think it was at least 6 months ago. Fast forward to now, they took the advice of having a conversation with someone like you, which is, all right, what do we have to do? And my most recent conversation with a husband, the male spouse, when I called him one day, he answered and I could hear like, what are you doing? So I said, should I call you back? He said, no, I'm fine. I said, but it sounds like you're trying to move somewhere. You're walking around. He said, I'm coming off a ladder. And I said, oh my gosh. I said, I'll call you back. He said, no, hang on the phone. So finally I could tell he got off the ladder. And I said, Bob, what were you doing? He said, I'm touching up the painting that I was advised to do.
Yeah.
So anyway, some of the things that he took to heart as advice from, you know, having a conversation with someone like you, guess what? They went live with their home for sale. Take a guess as to how many offers they got.
How long ago?
They went on the market live a weekend ago.
And what's the price point?
Price point $390.
And what town?
Oswego.
$390. I bet they had 12 offers.
Wow, they got 10. Spot on, man. They got 10. They chose they felt to be the right one. And right now, as I'm talking to you, they're about halfway through their process, right?
Okay, good.
So yeah, so good for them. They're ready to make this move. So for all of you watching us tonight as part of this live stream conversation, Greg hit it nailed on the head, which is you got to start a conversation with a professional, get an unbiased opinion. You know, not your brothers, not your sisters, because they come to your home for those holiday dinners and they probably kind of like, oh yeah, that water staying okay, whatever. But get an unbiased professional opinion as to what must be done so that your home, when it's going to get pushed out on the dating app, by the way, that's called the MLS, is then, you know, so sought after because everyone's like, hey, I got to book an appointment to look at this thing with this guy named Greg as part of Real Living in Bolingbrook. And by the way, Greg, you touched upon the one thing that is music to our guest ears, and that is you got to declutter. So before we welcome her into the room, let's set the tone. Here we go. You got to declutter, people. The more stuff that you've accumulated in your lifetime, you got to get rid of that stuff so that other people can see the nice hardwood floors, et cetera, et cetera. So with all of that being said, let's bring in Patricia Glossner into the conversation. Patricia, how are you?
Hi there. How are you?
We are good. Thank you for sharing your time with me, Patricia. By the way, for all of you listening into tonight's live stream, Patricia and I run into each other often enough. Why? Let's drop the humor. It's because Patricia and I, and Greg, are you a dog parent? You are, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. See, dog parents, we hang together. So Patricia and I run into each other frequently, almost every day. Maybe not right now because this weather is up and down, but during those spring, summer months, we always ran into each other. Our dogs got to know each other. And so for a long time, that's how I knew you as, oh, you're the dog parent of Leela. And as the conversations kind of escalated, eventually I asked you, I said, what is it that you do? And the first thing I remember, which made an imprint in my head was, oh my gosh, you're smart. Let me tell you why, audience members. Patricia is a pharmacist. Well, I should say it this way, ex-pharmacist, but as she's going to tell us, once you're a pharmacist, you're always a pharmacist. Am I right?
Yeah. It's in you.
All right. So welcome, Patricia. Thank you for gracing our episode tonight, Greg and my podcast series with your presence. And by the way, a little humor there before we brought you into the room with that little video of declutter, right? That's spot on, right?
Yeah. Well, I was listening to you talk about, selling your home and preparing your home. And really, one of the very first things to do is to declutter. I remember when I moved to Connecticut and we were looking at a house that had been on the market for 90 days. And when I walked in, I didn't understand why it was on the market for 90 days because it was on a good location. It had a lot of nice space. It just needed to be updated and decluttered. And there are some buyers that can see through that. And I was able to see through it. I was able to see through the red Formica kitchen countertops. But there are a lot of people that can't see through the noise, the clutter, the colors. And I think that's why it is important to walk through with somebody who knows what they're doing and saying, okay, this is too busy for somebody to walk in and be able to visualize it as their own. Right. And so for me, it wasn't a problem. I was able to see through it. For many people, it is a problem. They can't see it and they won't even consider the house. So all good points. And I've lived through it too. I was lucky enough to say, okay, I'm going to take the house that was on the market for 90 days because I can see the potential and ran with it.
Yeah. So as we're talking, as social media world is watching us, by the way, let me tip my hand here. Why did Greg and I decide to share our time with all of you through a video podcast? People, it's because we're all voyeuristic. You want to see what's going on. And by the way, here is a little snippet about Patricia, her journey as to how she converted herself from pharmacist to now professional organizer. So as we continue our conversation, you can even see, I can see Patricia, oh my gosh, wherever you're in your home office, it's very organized. That's disturbing.
Well, I'll have to say, when I retired from pharmacy after 25 years, what used to be behind me were the binders and the research and all that. And I remember when I moved away from that career and started to stay home, I said I wanted to fill my office space with things that I love. Yeah. And the crafting and the creativity and the things that I like. So you see, I have the pictures and the things that really speak to me. So I am organized, and sometimes I'm organized, but I have a little bit of a lot of things here because of my craft side of my hobby, so.
Gotcha.
How is my organization?
I love it. It's perfect. I do say often when I walk into somebody's house, if you had my website up for a second, and one of the things I say there that I think is so true is that your environment really adds or takes away, if you will, from that calm energy. And visual clutter also contributes a lot to that. So I often say to people that that when you start to organize, you can really change your life. And I mean that sincerely. And I hear that from my clients often. But when you declutter your life, you're also opening your life to the things that you want to do or that you enjoy. You give it space. Yeah. And I often, when I walk in to see a client, I can tell when they really need my service, when the visual clutter and all the noise is just creating chaos for all the kids that are around there. And I just can see, I can feel the energy of being kind of chaotic.
Yeah.
And then once I'm done with a project, how I always hear, especially from busy moms, that like, oh my gosh, like I can breathe. There's a space for everything. I label it. The kids are using the hooks the way they're supposed to. And it's little things, but it turns out to be it adds up to a lot of big things. And so that's one of the things I really enjoy.
Yeah. And for the men who are watching, hey, Greg and myself, we'll step up. We're the men. I mean, take a look at this one project. It looks to be, as I'm showcasing it for all of our audience members and our friends, this looks to be like a very organized garage. That's wonderful.
Well, I don't know if you can see the first picture next to it. Okay. I don't know if it was there. This was a gift from the wife, gifted it to the husband.
Love it.
To organize the garage. And he loved his tools, and he loved, so it was really finding spaces for all his tools and things. And we worked alongside, he and I, together, because I wanted it to be his vision of what made sense for him. And that was a really rewarding project.
That's wonderful.
Yeah. It was good.
So as we wrap up tonight's episode of Real Living in Bolingbrook, Patricia, how can audience members who struggle with decluttering or they just need to start with getting themselves organized, and it's probably a process, how can they find you?
Well, I would refer them to my website, because my website has the information about my certifications. So I am certified in the home residential organization, as well as certified in photo organization. Ooh. Which is a whole nother, I guess, can of worms, if you will. But that is another area that a lot of people need help with, is organizing their photos and their memories. So I'm certified in both areas. There you can see my before and after. I talk a little bit about my process as well. And there's a form that you can shoot me saying what areas you're interested. And so that website is perfectlyorganizedbypatricia.com.
Perfect. Thank you for verbally dropping that. And by the way, social media friends, if you're watching this as a live stream or as an on-demand recording, you'll see, I'll do this. You'll see a post that I'll drop that links you to that website. So thank you for sharing that with us. And once again, Patricia, thank you for sharing some of your evening time in this episode of Real Living in Bolingbrook.
I enjoyed it. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Thank you, Patricia.
Yeah. And audience members, as we wrap up tonight, should you have a reason to plan what you need to accomplish, which is maybe in the near future, you need to get help to sell a home, to buy a home. And if you need to start conversations with professionals to help you get to this next chapter, Greg and myself are ready, willing, and able to do that with you. All you need to do is simply scan the QR codes that you see here. You will then be able to start a conversation with us. And we'd be glad to figure out how to get you to that next chapter. So as we wrap up, Patricia and Greg, enjoy this cold spring night of March. Yeah. And Greg, until I see you in the next episode of Real Living in Bolingbrook.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bill.